Welcome back. It's your man, Marcus Whitney, and this is the Creative Power Hour, and today's guest is Valiant Van Tucker. Welcome back to the Creative Power Hour. Van, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you for making time.
Thanks for having me.
This is amazing. We just had a great lunch, great conversation. I feel like we should have captured all of that. But we'll get into it right now. So I love to start all of these conversations with a bit of an origin story. This is, I mean, it's so much fun to be able to bring people into my world and like steal them for an hour and a half and have these conversations.
It's
and
a great world.
Why would
you're
so
not
sweet.
Want to be in it?
You're so sweet. And I just, like, the origin story is just so important. So you don't have to go any longer than you want to. If this feels old for you, then we can move on. But I just think where we come from has it's got some color to it in terms of like where we are and where we're going. So
Sure.
I'd love to sort of just hear your origin story, on your own terms.
Well, I'm from Nashville. I grew up here. Hardworking, American value family. My parents loved, there was no adversity. I didn't grow up with any adversity.
Okay.
We weren't wealthy, but we didn't really need anything either. I was a teenage nightmare, like serious nightmare. Just rebellious, curious, creative. Those were not things that I think my parents were prepared for. They were, by the book, middle America, go to church every Sunday family.
Mm-hmm.
So that really set the stage for the rest of my life. I have found success through being curious and questioning and asking, taking a rebellious stance, so to speak. But over the years, I've learned to do that, I think, in a little more measured way. But that's basically my backstory. I'm a disruptor. I was honored, like floored, really, to be included on Forbes 2018 40 over 40 women disruptors.
Amazing.
It was just
Congratulations.
Crazy. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
And what did they? Why did they select you for that? You have an accomplished career, but what particularly,
Well, I think
What was that
specifically it's the work that we've done here, raising awareness of the fashion community and the creative community that is Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a big role in that, both in the music industry and creative artists and designers.
So it's been interesting to be here over the last 18 years and watch Nashville actually create recognizable statements in fashion, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I first got here, country music sort of
It's boots and hats.
right,
It
exactly.
was boots and hats.
Which
And there's nothing
is
wrong with boots and hats.
1,000%. Yeah, that is a fashion model and archetype as well.
I don't have any cowboy hats.
I don't either.
I do have some cowboy boots, and I love them. They're vintage.
Yeah.
But we don't dress. I don't know anybody that dresses that way.
I don't either. I never see anybody except for when I go downtown to Broadway, and I would venture that 3/4 of those people are tourists, right? They don't live
that's
here.
right.
Yeah. But there is sort of a Nashville fashion that's really starting to break through. And some of it is like kind of kitschy, kind of pop, but it's still distinctly from this town, right? You know what I mean? Which I think is incredible.
When you've really built an industry, it's now we're starting to see some splinter groups. For example, we have some African-inspired printmakers, textile designers. We have a sustainability movement here that's really strong. So people who are using natural dyes and natural fabrics and really being conscientious about what goes into their material and how those clothes are made. We have a strong social mission group here that are using sex traffic victims to make jewelry, for example.
Wow.
Barrett Ward and Abel are really focused on raising wage awareness for women, not just marginalized women, just women in general.
In general, got it.
So we're big enough now where we're starting to see some of the splinter group, and then we have all the high fashion brands as well, but we're starting to see some of those more hybrid splinter groups,
right?
Just like you see in the music industry.
You have a background in banking.
I do.
And you were pretty creative and I think instrumental in sort of blending the music industry and the banking industry. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like that sets the stage for a lot of maybe the lens that you have, right? When you look at creative industries, creative individuals, and you think about how they can do what they do in a sustainable way, in a way that can grow, both for that individual's benefit, but for all the good they're going to bring into the world, right, from their creation. So talk a little bit about what you did there.
I have a real passion around. So I've seen a lot of creative people get taken advantage of on the business front, either because they just didn't. You don't know what you don't know,
right?
So either because they just didn't know, or because they trusted. They trusted too much. And so I really have developed a pretty solid passion for helping creative people better understand business fundamentals so that they can grow and scale a business. Whether that's being a singer or a songwriter, or whether that's being a painter or a sculptor, or whether it's just a creative thinker who comes up with an idea for an app and doesn't know what to do with it.
All creative.
They don't know what to do with it. So in the music industry is really where I recognized my love for that, and that I was good at that. Frankly, I was good at that because I speak creative. Yeah. And I think one of the challenges that creatives run into is when they go and seek business resources, people speak in code. They speak in acronyms, and they use big words that they've never heard.
Yes.
And then they get judged when they say, "Well, I don't understand. What is a balance sheet? What's a pro forma?" They get judged when they don't know what those things mean, and there's just no reason for that. And so and I've been in their shoes. There was a time when I didn't know what a pro forma was, and I was judged for it.
I wrote a whole chapter about that, just because it takes so long to get a handle on that stuff, and it shouldn't, right? It's not even that. It's not that. The level of intelligence is necessary to understand
basics,
the encryption that they put around basic terms.
It's not that
right.
tough. You have to pay attention,
right?
And you have to have the desire. And frankly, a lot of creative people they just want to create,
right?
And I get that.
Yeah.
I get it. So anyway, I had some amazing opportunities while at Bank of America to use their fabulous resources, to do some really innovative things. Like Del Bryant at BMI and I developed the first wholesale loan program for songwriters to be able to borrow against their royalties. In the 90s, that you could have a number one single on the chart and not see that money for 2 years. As a matter of fact, I came up with the idea.
Wow.
And it's very predictable revenue streams too, by the way.
Wow.
And where I came up with the idea is we had a client. We had a client that had a number one song on the Billboard chart, and he was living in his truck. This guy was about to bank $1 million.
Right.
He didn't need to be living in his truck.
Right. And
so that's kind of where we came up with the idea for that. So, and now that's like generic. Everybody does it.
Right. I just want to make sure I understand. So prior to you creating this loan, this did not exist.
It existed only for writers of significant scale.
Got it.
Writers that had
who had done it over and over and over again. So the equivalent
again.
would be like a Stephen King in the literary world or something like that.
But
right?
I will say, prior to to us developing that, bank underwriters did not understand how to underwrite those loans.
Yep.
So
that makes sense. That makes sense. Gosh. So I just had Jason Myers, a photographer on the show, incredible photographer.
I hope you're listening, Jason.
Yeah,
take my picture.
He will. He does need to take your picture. He's incredible. And our conversation got into copyright because it is something that's confusing to me. I get the music world. I didn't quite understand the photographer world because you as the subject and the whole sort of it's work for hire, but they can retain the rights because they're producing it. It's their art.
It's murky in the fashion industry. It's murky in the arts. It's
and thinking about that asset,
murky,
right? The asset of a copyright.
That's right.
Right. So you were able to take that asset.
So in the music industry, you can not only secure the copyright as an asset for the loan, but you can also secure the revenue stream. So the BMI, ASCAP, or the mechanical royalties, you can put a lien on those as well.
Got it.
And
that's
a banker's dream come true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a banker's dream come true, and that's how we were able to do that.
Got it. Okay.
And, one of the big challenges I face now is the problem at the time was people just didn't understand the music industry because they hadn't taken time to understand the music industry. Bankers have been banking manufacturers and retailers and all these different industries forever.
Yep.
Excuse me, but they had never really dealt in the music industry. So once they began to understand how it worked, they were able to open up and do some more. And we're finding that true in the fashion industry as well. They don't necessarily understand how it works. And they don't understand the structure or how to put a credit around a financing deal for the fashion industry. And so I find myself in that position again, helping people understand the fundamentals of the business.
Where is the fashion industry right now, sort of related to changes that the internet has brought in to all industries, right? So that's a real theme that I have for this.
Crazy.
I would.
Is there an industry that's not being disrupted by technology
absolutely not.
right now?
Absolutely not.
First of all, there's
absolutely not.
So everybody's
absolutely
industry is being disrupted by technology.
Yes.
But specific to the fashion industry, it looks a whole lot like what the music industry went through about 20 years ago. So
like Napster?
Well, 20 years ago, you had gatekeepers, all the large record labels. If you didn't have distribution through a large record label, you weren't in a retail store, and that left you nothing but selling from the stage, which meant touring 300 days a year.
Yep.
And so what Napster really did, and Apple Music and Spotify and Pandora and lots of others, is they eliminated the gatekeeper.
Yep.
And then I could talk about this all day. There's YouTube. There are all kind of revenue streams that are now that in the music industry that do not require a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Well, it was the same thing in the fashion industry. If you wanted to sell to a consumer, you had to be in a store. So a boutique or Macy's, Nordstrom, you had to be in a store.
Yeah.
And they only have so much shelf space.
That's right.
So e-commerce. And social media have really opened that door. They've eliminated gatekeepers. That's one of the reasons why retail's in a free fall.
Yep.
Is the gatekeepers have been eliminated. I mean, if you look back at the music industry and even the film and television industry, Blockbuster, Tower Records, they're gone. They're history.
That's right.
And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
The brands with really savvy e-commerce strategies, logistics and operations management strategies so that they can get the product to the customer quickly. Those are the brands that I think are going to be the new kids on the block. I think my vision of the future of the fashion industry is this. You're going to go to a website, you're going to see a shirt you like, you're going to have a body scan, and you'll be able to upload that body scan to their website. You'll have 3 or 4 fabrics, and you can change the sleeves or the neck or something. But you can modify whatever you want to modify. For women, you may want the dress longer or sleeves or something like that. You'll be able to make all those choices. They'll make it and ship it to you in 72 hours.
Yeah. We're close, aren't we? I mean, I've seen things that are in and around this, right? But nothing really at scale, right? Or nothing quite yet.
Nothing quite at scale
yet, right?
But it's really close.
It's so close. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome.
It's really close.
It's going to be awesome. And you know, like the internet just removes the middleman and like basically everything. Like, you know, when you talk about the disruption, right? I mean,
that's
you know, the gatekeeper, the middleman, like it's always going to get sort of knocked out. And so what's really interesting to me is what our understanding of being a fashion designer evolves into. So for example, right? And I'm one of these people that doesn't really ascribe whether or not something is good or bad. I just sort of say this is where we're going.
Yeah,
this is what it is. This is what it is.
We have that in common.
Great, awesome. So in the music space, right? I mean, for a while there were a lot of people talking about, you know, what made real music versus what didn't, the musicality, sort of, you know, blah blah blah, sort of all this stuff.
The quality of digital transmission versus something else.
Yeah,
format.
Right. On and on and on and
they
on. They
don't have anything else. That's what they have to complain about.
Yeah, but like, you know, if you take that argument away, and by the way, the market doesn't care about that argument. That's the thing. The market doesn't care about that. Yeah. But if you take that argument away, the market basically says anyone who produces something that I find valuable is that thing, right? So if I find the music that this guy Sheck West makes that like hardly even sounds like anything we'd ever heard before, right? You know, if I find that valuable, then he is a top musician, sort of out of nowhere, right? You know what I mean? And it seems like you can have the same thing in fashion, where people who didn't kind of come up in a master apprentice environment, where, you know, they've developed a trade and a skill. Sort of, this is a conversation I was having with Jason, right, about like what I love about what he's doing is he's A, building a brand around himself, and B, he is really developing a style of photography that's like it's not easily replicated, right? You know what I mean? It's not easily replicated. The skill is evident, and just because you have access to technology doesn't mean you can do what he can do, right? And so it feels like there's going to be a whole bunch of new entrants that they're going to infuse their personality into clothes that may be generic, but the thing that's unique about it is their personality. And you could say something as general as t-shirts, right? And then,
but it's really about being able to articulate that, right?
Yes.
It's about being able to tell that story.
Yes.
It's also about discovery. There are two ends of that. So you as a brand, you have to be able to tell your story. I tell brands this all the time. And storytelling seems really easy. It is really hard. It's really, really hard to get the story right. But on the other end, you also have to be telling that story to people who care.
Yeah.
And to people who will hear it.
Yep.
I might hear Sheck's music and go, "This is horrible," and I don't know.
Right.
You
don't know it yet.
I don't even know who it is.
Right.
But I'll go look now.
Yeah.
Because I trust you, and so getting that story told from one person to the next, or to 50 people, and then to thousands of people. That's the real trick. It's not that e-commerce is going to make anything easier, or that social media makes anything easier. You still have to do the hard work of connecting a customer to a story. They want the experience. They want the story. Everybody wants to credit that to millennials. I am not a millennial.
Right.
Would you agree?
Right.
That's
I'm not a millennial.
The most important thing to me.
Yes.
Is I want a connection.
Yes.
And I've always wanted a connection.
Yes.
And I think everybody wants that. I think everybody really wants to be passionate about how they're supporting or how they're spending their money, what they're buying, how they're living their life.
Yeah. And we're in a situation now where we have that optionality, right? We're not limited to to what the mall puts in front of us, right? Which is why the malls are struggling so much, right?
That's right.
We can go on a variety of different sites. We can go, we can shop from our friends, right? Because all of our friends have side hustles and they're set up Shopify stores and locking in Printful or whatever they're doing,
That's
right?
right.
I just think that the fashion industry is such an interesting space, and as music continues to be disrupted and brings in more and more flavors of music that we never had before, those people bring in style, right? Because musicians are such incredible arbiters of style, right?
Too, that like music and fashion, they have first of all, music and fashion go
They're
hand in hand. They just go hand in hand.
1,000%.
And you know why?
Yes.
They are emotional drivers of how we define ourselves.
Yes.
I define myself by what music I'm going to listen to today. It defines my mood.
Yep.
Sometimes it creates my mood.
Yep.
Same thing with what we choose to wear. Some people think that they are not making choices, that they're just putting things on, but that in fact
right
is a choice. That
is a choice. Yeah.
And it says something about you.
It's a statement to yourself.
That's right.
And most importantly, it's a statement to yourself. But fashion is a statement to other people. I mean, it's what other people see when they see you, right?
That's
mean,
right.
they don't just see you. I mean, like it's funny. My hair has become, like a trademark for me, right?
Trademark.
Yeah, to where other people say they can't really imagine me without it. I can't really imagine me without it. But I've only had it for, 14 years of my life, right? I mean, like I didn't always have this, right? I mean, there was large blocks of my life where I was bald.
Yeah,
where I was bald.
Before.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think it's super interesting. So how is the Nashville fashion industry doing right now?
God.
I mean, I know you're like an ambassador for it, and so I know you're excited about it and enthusiastic about it, but how's it doing right now? Like, is it fully taking advantage of the era that we're in right now? I'm just finding that like almost no industry is fully taking advantage of what we have.
Don't you think that's kind of hit or miss anyway? And no matter what industry you're in, when you're dealing with entrepreneurs and creative thinkers,
it gets down to the individual,
yeah,
right?
I mean, some people are killing it.
That's fair.
They can't do anything wrong. They take full advantage of
totally
all
fair.
of the disruption.
Yep.
And then there are others who don't give it as much attention, or they coast, or they don't know what to do. And so, I mean, here's what I would say.
Yeah.
Over the last 3 years, I've got several examples of companies that have gone from 0 to in excess of $5 million in revenue.
That's real.
That's good
that's
in
real.
any industry,
That's real.
right?
That's real.
That's real.
That's one completely real. Completely real.
That's good in any industry. We've had other companies that the awareness has really, and the resources that we've built have really helped them drive better efficiencies or results within their companies.
Yep.
I mean, the fashion industry's killing it. They're killing it here, and it's because of the community and the collaborations, and people are willing to share information with each other, which you've been there.
Yeah.
You don't do that in other cities.
No.
You don't go to the fashion industry in New York and find two designers that are collaborating with one another. They
Yep.
don't do it.
Yep.
Or LA for that matter. So, and I think that goes back to some of the origin of that is back to our songwriting, co-writing community where people are willing to collaborate, to create something better.
Nashville's a collaborative town. It really is, and I'm saying not to the exclusion of other places, but it is.
It's our defining characteristic. I really do. I think it's our secret sauce.
Yep.
And the thing that I love too is that you many times see healthcare companies that will collaborate with. Well, I'll give you a great example. We have partnered one of our contract designers with two engineers at Vanderbilt's engineering school. They've built this incredible medical device that's a back brace, but it looks like a back brace.
Right.
And they want it to look like a t-shirt.
Yeah.
They want it to look hip.
Amazing.
So people will wear it.
That's great to hear. As a healthcare innovator, I'm so happy to hear
So
that.
making things, and I'm not suggesting that it's going to look like a T-shirt,
Yeah.
but at least making it more consumer friendly,
Right.
and they're willing to stand up and say, we know a lot about medical devices,
Right.
but we don't know anything about style.
Right.
And we have this community we can leverage here that doesn't know about
Wow,
style.
that's
so I like
brilliant.
that. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And then we have I point out hundreds of collaborations with our musicians.
Uh-huh.
Lots of collaborations with musicians.
What about Instagram influencers? I mean, it's like a whole new reality, right? I mean, there are several here in Nashville that are like, million plus followers,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and like really like about the fashion.
Yeah, and in the fashion space
Yeah.
too. Obviously, one of the things that I'd love to see, and it wouldn't be a great business decision for the influencer
Yeah, that's right.
necessarily.
That's
but
right.
I would love to see them partner more with some of our local brands.
Yeah, but like what they're
They
I
get paid, Marcus. They get
No,
paid
right.
big dollars
Okay.
from those big brands.
I completely get it,
They have to earn a
but
living.
I completely get it, but it's leverage, right? So if they're like sitting on 1 million, 2 million followers, and they also have the equity of like, I've worked with this brand, I've worked with that brand, can't they like take that in the local community and like get equity, get rev share, get, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be like all up front, right? Like can't they do like collaborations where it's like, look, I have a track record, right, of being able to get people's stuff.
Well, that's a brilliant idea.
Right?
Of course, you would come up with a brilliant idea. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea, but I think, one of the things you need to remember too is that unlike a lot of the situations that you work in every day, some of these companies aren't formed well
They're not
enough
structured
to be
well
able
enough to do that.
an equity deal. And frankly wouldn't even know how to structure that. And
Right.
so it would be an expensive proposition for them to hire an attorney and an
Yeah.
accountant and others to be
Yeah.
able to put that together. Yeah, I mean that would be a great way to go about it if probably we had a little more sophistication and companies that were a little further along than that.
Yeah, I'm always just thinking about the various forms of capital, right? That are out there, and influencers have a lot of capital. They have a ton.
They
of
do,
capital.
but there's also a lot of question in the fashion industry around: is there an ROI? I mean, they certainly drive a lot of likes and a lot of traffic, but what are they doing to drive sales? And that's difficult to measure.
Well, this gets back to the brand piece you were saying, right?
That's
Because if the fashion designers, fashion companies understand how valuable building their brand is for the long term, right? You know what I mean? Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, like these are going to be brands that will be around for a long time. Above and beyond, like they'll just be able to leverage the internet, assuming they use the internet correctly, because their brand is so deep.
That's right.
Right? You know what I mean? And I think in fashion, brand, like if you're not over stylized, so I grew up with hip hop as like sort of the dominant culture in Brooklyn, and so there was a series of like streetwear fashion brands, right?
Oh.
But they were
It's the hottest thing in fashion right now.
But they were so stylized that like they didn't have enduring. They didn't endure, right? You know what I mean? Because they were tied to an artist,
They weren't that relatable.
Right. When the artist went out, they went out, or they were sort of tied to a particular era of music, as opposed to just really, really, really being. I mean, I think that's fading away now as you're seeing like more collaborations with like the big sportswear, like Nike, Adidas, and stuff like that. But like, as long as the brand isn't
Supreme.
Supreme.
The big thing in the fashion industry now is drops.
Yeah, right.
And it works.
Did Supreme invent the drop?
Yeah, I think they did.
Basically,
I mean, as soon as I say that, somebody's
going to correct, but I mean, they're sort of attributed with that, right?
I will say Supreme definitely brought that to light as a business model.
Yeah,
and now everybody does. I mean, everybody's doing it.
Everyone's doing it. So what's new? Like, so we talked through the whole body shaping thing, and I it's been a while. It's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've seen the technology, but I just know from my own shopping experience and from others, like we're not there yet, unfortunately. I can't wait till we get there. But like, what are you starting to see emerge now? Like new trends that really feel new. It feels like this is fresh. This is inventive. in the fashion space. That's not like a drop / pop up kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think there are two things, and one is kind of on you in your wonderful Create and Orchestrate book. You talk about internal versus external marketing, which I love. That's not how you refer to it.
Yeah, no. That's my point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's internal versus external marketing. So one is kind of a backroom operations, where the industry is going from more of an analog system. So you're sketching on a piece of paper and you're taking that piece of paper and somebody is making a pattern by hand.
Is that still the predominant way it works?
No, some people, but a lot of people still do that.
Okay.
And so we're moving to an all digital model where you design by CAD, that then converts it to a digital pattern. The digital pattern is used to laser cut and digitally transfer an image onto fabric, which can then be automated sewed.
Yeah.
That supply chain, that digital supply chain, does not exist currently. But there are pieces of it, and people are beginning to see the value bringing all those pieces together. It's like just-in-time manufacturing for automobiles. It's the same thing.
Yep.
You're going to see it in the fashion industry.
Yep. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then I think on a marketing side, I think one thing that I'm really excited to see is a lot of discussion around body imaging, whether that is I'm not 6 feet tall and weigh 100 pounds, or I'm handicapped, I have braces on my legs, and I still want to look cool.
Right.
I don't want to be stuck looking like, generic.
Right.
I will want to define a brand for myself. So, being more accepting of body diversity, I'm seeing a lot more in that area, and I love seeing that.
It seems like that back end piece that you talk about is like the foundation for that front end piece, right?
It is.
Like as things get more CAD, laser, then you can start to add the personalization aspects to it.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
well,
right.
I mean, you can't do it without that digital supply chain. But then, so we kind of have these. It's kind of the perfect storm because you kind of have these two things that are kind of converging at the same time.
Yep.
So we'll be able to execute on that.
Man, that's really interesting. It's sort of funny, things that you think should have been here a long time ago. Some things are right in front of our face and we completely take them for granted, right?
Yeah.
So things I would put in that bucket is the incredible power that we do have to broadcast, tell our story to the entire world, right? I mean, like from our phone at all times. I think that's one of the things that for a variety of reasons we sort of have taken for granted, and we don't really sort of think about how revolutionary that is versus like where we came from just 15 years ago, right?
Oh,
you know what I mean?
gosh.
Like how closed the funnel was to be able to get access to the masses versus like how wide open it's been blown today, right? So that's one of those things I think we still take for granted. One of the things I thought we would be further along on is, generally speaking, personalization. And the example I have is Netflix, Black Mirror, Bandersnatch.
Yeah.
It just sort of feels like we should have had Choose Your Own Adventure TV a long time ago.
I know.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, we had Choose Your Own Adventure books, those were my favorite books when I was in elementary school. I'm sort of surprised that like I can't put together my own clothes exactly the way I want to. And I know that there's like iTailor and things like that, but it's not quite there yet. It's not quite there yet. And I did think we would be closer to that by now.
So I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with that. So,
Okay, yeah.
And I think a lot of people do. So it's risky.
Yeah.
Right? It's risky as a consumer to choose my own ending. What if there's a better ending?
Well, that's what we all found out, right? You know what I mean? Like once it was in our hands, it was like, oh, am I going to make the right call? I had a lot of fun. I was just like, I want to. I like
Sugar
controlling
Pops or cornflakes.
Yeah, right. The different cereals.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, what if?
And some of them were completely inconsequential,
I know,
like
that's
what
what I
music,
mean.
and some of them were like,
and we don't know.
Yeah,
But
don't
that's
know.
life, right? I mean, we make choices every day,
Right?
And we don't know what they are.
Right.
I mean, we don't know what the consequences are. We think we measure risk. We think we, try to make the right decisions, but the truth is we don't know. We don't really know.
We were talking earlier about creative intent versus creative action.
Oh yeah.
Right. And
that's a big one for me.
It's huge. It's huge. It's for me, it's the variable upon which I'm gonna just invite people to the show. Right. I want people who are creatively active, but I understand that to take active action around your creative thoughts, your creative ideas, your passions takes a lot of courage, and it does come with significant risk. What have you found? I mean, look, let's take the Nashville Fashion Alliance as an example, right? I mean, and I don't exactly know where you and fashion started, like where that intersection started, but at a certain point, you sort of looked up and you were like, I know what's needed here, and then you went about the business of doing that, right?
Yeah, and so I think that's an interesting story, how all of that, and people often ask me, banking to have fashion, that happened. So I've always been a believer that with intent without action is just
what?
It's just
what?
Something,
right?
But it's nothing.
It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing.
I mean, you can have the greatest intentions, but if you don't act on them, then you have an empty bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
And we all want a full bowl. We want a full cup. I had left banking and really had decided that it was for good.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been able to creatively think through what I had been passionate about my whole life, was helping creative people who wanted to run a business understand business fundamentals, because I saw a lot of people who did not know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that was a skill set that I had. And I'm very passionate about it. I'm really passionate about accessible economic prosperity for creative people to help them understand how to grow and scale their business.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I will never get tired of it. I love watching somebody jump off a bridge and learning that they can fly.
Yep.
I love it so much. There's nothing more rewarding to me. And so I had started a consulting company. I was working with a couple of companies, and I read this article that Abby White wrote in The Scene called "Does Nashville Have What It Takes to Sustain a Fashion Industry?" Now remember, I just left the music industry as a banker where I'd innovated all these things.
Yep.
And loved it. And I thought, what? A fashion industry?
Yeah.
Is she high? I mean, what fashion?
What year was this? Just for context.
2013.
Okay.
2013.
That's like a minute ago.
Yeah, it's 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Okay.
So Abby's a good friend. I reached out to Abby and I said, I'm just reading this article and this is fascinating, because she had surmised that really what we needed was this business infrastructure, access to capital, business resources, mentors.
Yeah.
Hello.
Right. Ecosystem. Yeah.
Ecosystem. And I thought, I know how to do this. I know how to get this done. So I called Abby and she said, go with me. She said, there's an industry panel day of Nashville Fashion Week. Come to the industry panel day and meet some people, which I did. And I met Amanda Valentine, and I met Libby Calloway, and I met a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And so a few weeks later, Libby, Sophie Simmons, Abby, and I had breakfast. And Libby had been talking to the mayor's office and the arts, Metro Arts, and some other people, but just not getting any traction around the fashion industry. So we put a little group together, and one of the first things I realized is we had no data. Nobody was quantifying this, and that's why Libby was not getting anywhere. Libby's a brilliant woman. But that's why she wasn't getting anywhere, is that there was no data to back up her anecdotal information.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a student at the Owen School at Vanderbilt do a white paper, because I didn't know anything about the fashion industry.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa did a great job putting together this white paper. on how the fashion industry worked, what it looked like nationally, regionally, locally, and that's where we learned that we have the largest concentration of independent fashion companies per capita outside of LA and New York. And that sounded familiar.
Yeah. Right.
Because in the 80s, really even to some extent the early 90s, the music industry here was the redheaded stepchild. All the infrastructure was in LA and New York. And there was a conscious decision made by the music industry here to say, we're going to build resources here because we don't want to live and work in LA and New York. And they did. And now we're the largest center of employment in the world in the music industry. I'm going to edit out my cough. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
We presented this white paper to about 40 people. It was people like Janet Miller, who was head of economic development at the Chamber, and Jen Cole, who was at Metro Arts.
Yeah.
And then and Chris Parham, who was then working for Mayor Dean. And then about 40 brand owners. And we just presented the information. They didn't know it either. They did not know all this information. And so we just simply asked the question, what do you want to do? And so they decided they wanted to explore organizing, what an organization would look like, what its goals would be. You know, creative people aren't that famous for being joiners. They tend to be kind of loners and don't see a lot of value in joining together with others. That is not true here. The value of building this community, I'll never be able to quantify that, but it has been everything. It's been everything.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of people who just would not know each other if it had not been for this community coming together and forming the NFA. So we spent about 3 months in facilitated conversations. Jody Lentz did a great job of facilitating those conversations where we came up with some goals and things we wanted to focus on. We launched a $100,000 Kickstarter campaign, funded that for our seed capital. Got a lot of interest from the industry was just floored, fascinated. I think they're still floored, although they're in shock from all the disruption. And that's how we were born. And I'm really proud of what we've done. We've put this as an economic job creation industry on the map, both locally and globally. We have connected as a community to business resources and mentors and all kinds of helpful initiatives. But I think most important, we've just kind of come together as a community, just having that bond and having some place that gets the gel, it kind of serves as the glue.
That's
I think
right.
That's really been the big wow for me. It's been an incredible experience.
Is it just the beginning?
Oh, I think it's just for the fashion industry here, definitely.
Okay.
I mean,
that's what we're looking at, right?
I mean, I think there are so many opportunities. We have so many people. The job board of our NFA website is one of the most visited pages of our website. We have over 3,500 unique visitors to that page every month.
Wow.
So people are wanting to move here. They're looking here. We're beginning to have more conversations about companies relocating here. So
that's big. That's
big. The banks are having conversations with me about how the industry works. That's good.
Yeah.
Things are really happening when the banks say, I want to learn more. I'm interested in this. I want to learn how this works. That's good. And so we have some things like that going on.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by it. And it feels early. I wish
your next company be a fashion company.
I really am interested in doing something in fashion just to learn. like just because I think you learn by doing,
Sure.
I can't learn from the outside, right? But just to learn, it is really a fascinating industry, and I'm just so. I think it has something to do with me getting older, but I'm so just consumed right now by how culture is being created, right? And how fast it's happening in the non-traditional channels, and that by the time you see it, it's already happened. Like, that didn't used to happen, right? Like, you didn't used to find out about something, and then when you look into it, realize, oh shit, it's got 5 million followers already, right? You know what I mean?
Over.
Like, it's over. It's over, right? And so
it's like going to try and buy a house in Wedgwood, Houston right now. It's
over. It's over. And and I just think, so I actually feel that way about music and fashion right now, right? I mean, I just think it's so disruptive what's happening with Instagram, Snapchat, Shopify. You know what I mean? I just think it's so disruptive that it has downstream impact on other things. Like, I think it has downstream impact on politics. It's got downstream impact on just, this is where we get our values from ultimately, right? This is where this is where the next generation sort of molds how they think about things, and I'm about to lose touch with that because my youngest son is about to go to college, right? So it was nice having him around because, I could just like look at his phone and be like, dude, what's that? And he'd be like, oh, it's Discord. It's an app that I use to talk to other gamers. You know what I mean? So like, just having him in my pocket was like a really great way, but he's gonna be gone in a year. You know what I mean? And I can already feel.
But you're pretty hip. I mean, you're pretty plugged in. But hear me out on this, because you're fairly plugged in, and I'm fairly plugged in because we're curious, because we're interested, because I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
And not everybody is interested, and so we still might be on the fringe of whatever that is, but we're a little closer in than most people, is what I would tell you. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
I heard something. I was trying to think of the exact quote, but I think there are two pieces of culture that are really important that I want to explore. One piece of culture is aspiration and aspirational things. So we know we're never going to be Mick Jagger. Yeah. But we can aspire to be Mick Jagger.
Right. And what does that do to our life trajectory just by having the aspiration?
I mean, right? So things, and you see that a lot in the fashion industry. I mean, I can't afford a Chanel suit, but God, I aspire to. I can tell you that. I aspire to do that.
Right.
And then there is what we really are.
Yeah.
And so my aspirations and what my values actually are, there's some kind of mathematical intersection.
I think that's where I'm going. I think that's where I'm going.
Oh, that's where. Well,
I think that's where I'm going.
I think we all want to make those. There's some kind of mathematical
when we were having
equation.
lunch, seriously, when we were having lunch, this was the conversation we were having, but I didn't have the words to explain to you where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
Aspiration versus what reality is.
That's where I'm going.
And for some people, there's some kind of trajectory that we can purposefully, we can intend to act in a way that is aspirational, juxtaposed to where we really are. Right. And so if you're a creative thinker, I think you're always thinking about that. I aspire to this. Yep. So what is it going to take for me to have those intersect? I mean, that's kind of the basis of creative thinking, right?
Yeah, and there's just, oh my gosh, there's just so many inputs and so many ways to output now, like in such a compressed period of time. I'm going to play this back because that's where I'm going. That intersection of where we see ourselves and what we actually are.
You're so disciplined, and this is where I think where I have so much admiration for creative thinkers. You're so disciplined about that, about to say, this is not going to get me closer to my aspiration inflection point. It's not going to get me closer. Yeah. And so I'm not going to spend any time on it.
I'm getting more disciplined about that.
But you're very
I'm getting more
compared
disciplined.
to most people. You're very disciplined about that, and I aspire to be more disciplined, and I know that is something that's going to get me more on that path.
Mm-hmm.
But to have the discipline to say, I don't understand balance sheets. I aspire to be a multi-million-dollar brand, but I can't be one because I don't care about balance sheets. I don't even want to hear that word again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be disciplined enough to find somebody who can help me get to that intersection quicker. And I think that's the big difference between intention and action. You can intend all day, but if you don't take the action, you're never going to reach that aspiration.
That was brilliant. That was really brilliant. I mean, I even
that
talking.
Was brilliant.
Well, even talking about the discipline piece, right? I mean, because you just framed up. I mean, I've really recently been thinking about the words that I'm trying to get to, about the message I'm trying to get out, right? You know what I mean? And it's definitely what I'm living right now. So like this idea that it's hero's journey stuff, right? It's the reason why I start the show and I kind of play with everyone's name, Valiant Van. It's this idea that really we are the hero in our story, right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so like when you understand that, then you understand it's all on you, right? Like it's all on you. So like if you aren't disciplined, and if the hero isn't disciplined, that's it. You know what I mean? Everything from there is just gonna.
In every great movie, the hero gets crushed, right? I mean,
it's part of the deal.
It's the critical part.
It's part
right?
of the deal.
So I don't want to leave this conversation with anybody feeling like I need to be disciplined and perfect. Because if I'm not disciplined,
you don't avoid getting crushed by being disciplined. By the way,
that's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think. Just remembering that no matter how far off that line you might fall, you're always working toward getting back to it. We all mess up.
Yeah.
We all mess
Totally.
up. We all mess up. And
Yes.
some of us mess up really badly. And then we just have, the important part is that we dust ourselves off and go, okay, I'm just gonna get back on that line. You have to be disciplined enough to say I'm pretty badass, and I'm just gonna get back on that line again.
Yep. Yeah, like discipline's a tricky word because
words are important, aren't they?
They are.
Because discipline to me has it's always had kind of this negative connotation.
That's what I was about to say.
Because my parents disciplined me.
That's what I was about to say, and I don't think about it that way, right? But it can have a negative connotation. But I don't think about it.
I don't think of it that way anymore. But I can certainly.
But you can see why it would be
why
associated
people do,
with that. Yes.
Yeah.
I see it
it's kind of the opposite of spontaneity, right?
Yeah, but that kind of. Oh yeah, that hurts too, right? I mean, because
it's kind of the opposite of spontaneity, because you can you also want to be spontaneous and be open But
so in
discipline
this
requires
setting,
making hard choices.
In this setting, right? For example, we didn't prep this conversation, right?
No,
we didn't prep this.
I would have forgotten my script.
Right, exactly. We didn't prep this conversation, so this conversation has had moments of spontaneity throughout it, right? But the discipline is I block this time, I figure out the lighting, I get all this stuff. I get the systems right.
We start on time.
We start on time. So I can sit down and I can be comfortable. So when it's time for spontaneity, I can do that in a relaxed, comfortable way. That's how I think about it.
And will you be disciplined enough to close us on time too?
I will. I got it. Trust me. My eye is looking at that.
I mean, that's a great example, because you're exactly right. If you use the discipline to set up your systems and your processes correctly, then that gives you more creative freedom. And I tell people that all the time that are creative people. If you build this structure around you where all the details are going to be taken care of and you're confident.
Yep.
You trust, you've watched it, you've built it, then that gives you more creative freedom because you trust the system a little more.
I learned that from David Allen, Getting Things Done.
Yeah.
That book.
Yeah.
I just thought he put it, when he talked about the mind like water and how productivity is a mental martial art. A, I love martial arts. B, like, I got it right away. I was like, oh shit. So if I can get all the crap that's like running around in my head and driving me nuts out, like if I can get all that stuff and if I can clear the deck, I can do what I really want to do, which is be lucid in my creativity, right? Like be totally flowing and it's just fun and it feels good and I'm not stressed out about it, right? Like I can be there because all those little nits are like handled, put away. And that changed my life, 10 years ago when I read that book. So yes, that was we just segued, but like
I had a similar time. So I read a book in business school on chaos theory and quantum physics, and at the time I thought, what the hell?
Yeah.
What does this have to do with anything?
Right.
And it was really eye opening for me because the perfect response to quantum theory says nothing is predictable, right? Everything is moving randomly and nothing is predictable.
Yep.
And you know what the answer to that is? Stillness. The resolution to that is stillness. And if you can't find the stillness, you're going to be in the chaos.
Yep.
I like the stillness a lot more. And the way to get to the stillness is you build the infrastructure that is flexible, agile, responsive enough to all the chaos. And for God's sake, if there's anything in today's culture that is known, it is chaos.
Constant.
Never ending.
Constant.
And from all different directions.
Yep.
And so if you don't figure out the agility, resourcefulness, and get that infrastructure in place, you'll never get to the discipline or the stillness to be able to manage all that. It'll manage you.
Yep.
I don't want to be managed. I've always had an authority problem.
Me too. Oh, this has been incredible. So yes, I think that's the note to end on, both because we want to end on time, but also because that's the note to end on.
Oh.
That's the note to end on.
I'll do it again.
Thank you.
I want to do it every day. This is amazing.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been life enhancing for me. So thank you for spending the last hour and a half with me.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, you're incredible. All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe, share, let your friends know, and we'll be back at you next week. Peace.
Bye.